Welcome back to the Peace and Happiness podcast. We are doing the final top 48 insights with Raquel V-Saga. We are continuing to celebrate her birthday with these insights. And this episode is Love Yourself. This is a good one, especially for you too. That's one thing that I've learned a lot from you. Like, you can't love yourself until you know yourself. So I can't wait to get through these 12 insights. So let's start with the first one. To know who I am and whose I am is the most loving thing I have done for myself.
So a lot of times we'll live life and we're so busy with the exterior, the externalities, and the image of how we want other people to see us and who we want to be for other people and what we want them to say about us that we never connect with ourselves. We actually don't know who we are. And we talked about this in one of the previous podcasts, like Ronda Rousey, right? Once she lost the UFC championship, like, she didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
So most of us don't know who we are outside of our achievements, accolades, status.
Your job.
Yeah. And so to really know yourself, and then for me, whose I am, I believe I'm a child of God. So to know whose I am and to know who I am has been one of the most loving things that I can have ever done for myself. And it's what I do for my clients is I really have them see that they are a human being. They have the right to exist and they are a soul, plain and simple. And so to know who I am, that I lack nothing, that you don't, and it sounds so cliche, right? It sounds like things that we hear that we should know, but in the reality, we don't, we just know it conceptually, that we're valuable because we're a human life, but we just understand that conceptually. We don't actually know that. And so for me, knowing who I am, that I'm valuable and worthy just for the part that I'm a human life, I think that's been one of the biggest ways to love myself. And I teach that in one of the workshops. I asked the question, well, what about if there's a baby that got given away at the fire station? Should we throw it away? And people are looking at me like, you weirdo. And I'm like, well, I mean, the parents didn't want them. So, and they're like, no. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, it's a baby. It's a human life. And then I'm like, why do we treat ourselves differently than that? Or if there's an earthquake and there's a rubble and somebody's stuck inside, are we going to help them out, or are we going to start questioning, well, did they have a degree? Did they have money? Like, we won't ask those questions. Why? Because it's a human life. And so I just feel that most people don't understand the fact that they don't value themselves just for the sheer simplicity that they are a human life. And so knowing who we are is very important.
Number 2, to love me is to love myself unconditionally. All my shadows, past, present, and you get to be the passing billboard test.
So for me, I teach this thing where, like, I want you to love yourself in such a way that if tomorrow morning there was a billboard with all of your flaws, all of your big, big, big mistakes, the ones that you don't tell anyone about, the ones that you hope don't come out, that you would be able to see that billboard and look at it and be like, yep, that's me. I did that. Like, that's to love ourselves, to have that level of acceptance that somebody can bring something up to you and you're like, yeah, I'm working on that. And we're talking in the car about recently somebody I'm working with, and they were having a hard challenge when I pointed out, like, you're selfish. Let me show you how. And they were resisting it. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, you might want to talk to so-and-so. I worked with them on this selfish thing.
Yeah.
And people take that as such a negative. Like, no, I'm not selfish.
I can't be selfish.
And it's like, it's just a matter of fact. Like, most of us were selfish. Some of us have a stronger nature to be selfish. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, you're showing up and you don't want to be selfish. So why don't you look at it like, okay, well, why am I selfish? And where is that coming from? And why do I think, and then just get to know yourself. Like, and so
get curious instead of condemning yourself.
I think that's one of the things that makes me such a great taker of critique, When people criticize me, I'm like, oh, thank you. It's like a cheat sheet for me. Like, or this, oh yeah, I've heard this one a lot. I'm really working on this one. Thank you.
It's still showing up. Okay. Work harder.
Alive and well. Okay, get it. But I just, I'm not going to take it as a negative. Like, I have lots of flaws and I own them. And if you want to come help me roll up the sleeves and work at them, great. I'm not trying to be perfect.
Right. Like, what is there to hide? You did it.
Yeah.
You know it. It's funny because there's, I forgot where I heard this from, but it's like, if I die, I assign such and such to delete my Google history,
Wow.
Which is like the complete opposite of number 2. You've never heard that?
No. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, if I die, delete my Google history. But yeah, it's so true. It's like, wow, you did it. It was there.
I have a funny one though, like that my kids just can't understand. I cannot leave my house if it's not ordered.
Oh.
And then they're like, Mom, like, oh, especially if I'm going like on a getaway or mini vacation, like the house has to be spotless. Like, Mom, what's your problem? Go, if I die, I don't want anyone coming in and saying I was a pig.
Why? Oh my gosh.
And they're like, Mom, you have issues.
I think that's like Jose's dad. I think it was Jose's dad. Like, he never wears holy underwears because in case like he's in an accident, they're like, why does he have holes? I'd have been like, well, I just had holes. I think I would be okay with that.
No, but I can understand that. And it's always, I guess that's a part of like how you want to be remembered. Because that's how it comes for me. Like a representation of me, right? But that doesn't mean as much as, I can have that. At the end of the day, though, I'm very okay with, I'm a human being.
Yeah.
I'm going to mess up.
Yeah.
All the time. Sometimes it's going to be royally.
But you love yourself.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
It's okay. I'm not as good as my last mistake. Like, my quantification isn't rooted on my last success or my last failure. I get a right to exist.
Like that. Number 3. Being unapologetically me is the grandest form of love. The right to exist.
Yeah, the right to exist. There you go. So unapologetically being me for me is, for example, I've talked about how much I struggled doing these podcasts, and at the beginning, like, oh, you need to do this and you need to be this way. And I'm like, why? Like, if people can't see and can't resonate with what I have to share to help, why am I forcing to package it a certain way as like, I don't know, like manipulation or facade? I've always struggled with that. I just like it to be more organic. I just like it to be real. I like it to be open, raw, authentic. And if that turns you off, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm like unapologetically me. Like, some days I look great, some days not so much. I'll give you an example. When I got my braces, I didn't want to start doing it. It was right a month after COVID started. Mm-hmm. And around that time, I'm being like bombarded with requests for sessions to the point that that's how V-Saga came about. And I started doing the groups and stuff because I was doing 60 to 80 hours one-on-ones with people. And people were struggling.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started doing the group, the 7 days. And then I started doing like those 40 days. Well, I already had the 40 days since 2015. But that's when I started like, here, let me send you an email. I was selling it for like $90. Here you go. And the link for the 40 videos with a little explanation. And people were coming back, oh my gosh, that was life-changing. Mm-hmm. This was amazing. And I just kind of had to figure out really quickly within months. I hired Chris as my assistant to help me because I was overwhelmed because, well, to this day, I've never done marketing. And it's because we get results, right? And so to me, it's very important to just really be authentic, unapologetic, and you get what you see. Like I'm not hiding anything.
Yeah.
And I just I think loving ourselves is accepting ourselves. and the right to exist. And if that doesn't jive with your way, if that means I'm not going to fit in your world, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone's for everyone.
Right. Because you're not going to not be you if you don't accept it, if you don't like it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to accept it at that point.
And we're not in competition either. I think a lot of times the reason we have an issue with that and we're trying to position or make ourselves look a certain way is because A, we're trying to get approved outside of ourselves, and B, we're almost like competing. Like, am I good enough? And I remember, I don't even remember Holly, but she used to say, oh, you could build a yoga studio right next to Raquel's studio and she'll come over and try and show you how to, she'll try and help you.
Yeah.
And now we have a yoga studio right next to our yoga studio. And you know for a fact how I took that. To me, it was like, that's awesome.
Right.
And the clients were upset for us. And I was like, you guys.
Like, how do you build the community?
I was like, you guys, there's 80,000 people in the city.
Right. You can't fit them all in one studio.
I can't. Both of us can't fit them all. So us being in competition, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean by that. And so it's very loving to yourself when you stop competing with others and instead just be unapologetically you.
Number 4, accepting I am infinite, therefore an internal work in progress. Loving the process instead of seeking a destination is loving me.
So a lot of people, like when they're in their healing or their growth or they're trying to get somebody, they're so fixated. It's like a destination to be enlightened.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, or be good or get to this level. And to me, like, there's no level to get to. It's infinite. Where we can get to in whatever each one of us are doing, there is infinite potential. So instead of trying to get to the end, like if I think I know love, love is infinite.
Yeah.
And man, did this last year teach me. I thought I knew how to love and I was a great lover. And man, did I set up for this year, for when I turned 47 for my birthday, to just purify my heart and have this love like more than unconditional. And man, you've been front row seat to it.
Yeah.
And my love has been stretched and it's been amazing. And to know that even this year is just scratching the surface, because love is infinite. There's more depths of it that I can, discover.
Yeah.
There's more depths to coaching. There's more depths. Like you can always like learn so much. So instead of trying to get somewhere and feeling like I'm trying to achieve, I'm just enjoying my life. Like I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Yes, of course, we have timelines and do things, but I'm not fixated or attached to things being a certain way and a certain time frame. I'm just more like, you know what? Let me be here. Let me experience this. Let me be present.
And then you almost lose like that self-discovery too, because you're so focused on, I need to obtain, I need to achieve this, regardless of what it is. Like you're not enjoying or even learning the journey to get this.
100. You become more of a human doing instead of a human being. And we're more like clinical and machine driven instead of like actually being there. So that to me is one of the grandest ways that I have seen that I love myself. And it's one of the things that when I get others to do that for themselves, they come back and tell me, okay. Like we get to have fun.
Yeah.
This gets to be play.
Yeah.
But we're not treating life like that.
No.
We're treating like there's some race and we're competing and there's scarcity and I get it. That a lot of that is what's proposed to us.
It
but
is.
There's
it's
more
hard.
available.
Because it's not it's not like rainbows and butterflies. Because I can remember when Jose witnessed the first time, you and I had like a conversation and really digging in why I acted a certain way. And I remember just crying, and he's looking at me like, what is happening? And then I kept trying to tell him, like, this is good for me. Like, this is good. It's unpacking and covering so many things about me that I get to do differently now. And to the outside world, it looks like, what? What is happening? Like, he heard you on the phone. Like, what is this? Why is that? You know, like, that's not good. This isn't good. But that it is the form of loving yourself, because
Is that the one where I was like, why are we being inconcise?
yes, that one. It was, you know, and him looking out, like he was sitting right next to me, like, what is happening? Because I was in tears.
Raquel's a bee.
Yeah, and I was like, this is actually good for me. Like, one way or another, I just need to feel it, but I'll figure it out. And it's true. It was very hard to hear, but at the end of the day, it is helpful because it does truly get to me and loving myself, because I wasn't loving myself the way I was being unconcise.
Yes, because there's usually some wound that when we're not being accurate, when we're not being concise, when our reasoning isn't in love, when we're not coming from just being whole and complete, we're not connected to infinite intelligence. So then what are we connected? What intelligence are we connected to? We're connected to survival.
Yeah.
We're connected to image. We're connected to facade and appearance. And like, I refuse.
Yeah.
Like that I remember you like, no, this company is like, But I could see that because people, when I've done some of my healing, they worry, you know, are you okay? And I'm just like, I'm more than okay. Because I understand that what's being broken down is the fallacies that have been inherited to me.
Right.
And I get to, and some that I created on my own, obviously, right? And so just peeling back the layers, but not peeling them back because I'm trying to get whole and complete and enlightened. No. Just because it's limiting. It doesn't serve me.
It is.
So
it's limiting. Yeah, it's hard. It's not pretty, but.
And that's actual love.
Yeah.
Not this repressing, oppressing, denying, detached, dissonance, numb.
Right.
But I look good and I got my, I don't know, Balenciaga on, or, you know, whatever it is, you know.
Yeah.
Like, we're so concerned with how we look on the outside, but like what's really going on inside. So so that for me is a huge part of loving myself.
Number 5, knowing standards is the most loving thing for my regulation system.
So I set standards of how I want my days to go, even how I want my years to go, right? Like I always set up my year. Like my birthday is going to be 2 days from today, right? And I will make sure of what I want 48 to be intentional about. And like, for example, last year I chose Purify My Heart. Like this holiness, whole and complete. And man, it's been amazing. My heart has been purified left and right. And so to just really understand that I do have so much of the direction of where I make the needle move. And so that's just been huge for me. That's a huge way of loving myself, is just like really understand, what do I want to create? Because I have authority. Like, I'm going to say that again. I have authority over my life. And when I decide and decide means to cut any other options off. So when I decide something, I understand it might not go through. I might have to figure it out, just like Edison, 10,000 ways how it didn't work. But I'm committed to that. And so therefore, I'm not disappointed or let down or You realized it with me, the talks that I've had at private schools or with the state of California government employees, like, oh, that didn't go my way, or that didn't go, okay, great. I don't, it's not that big of a deal. And that's what it is to love yourself, is to just really being able to like understand that you can evolve all the time.
Number 6, having a voice, even if it shakes, is vital to loving yourself.
Having uncomfortable conversations, I own those today. I have no problem having them. Expressing myself, even when it would be easier or more comfortable for the sake of others for me to just go along. I don't do that anymore. That doesn't mean I come off confrontational, but it goes back to like what we just talked about, standards. I have a certain standards of what I want for myself and mine. And when things are challenging those, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to have a voice. And even if it shakes, I'm gonna have a voice. And so I've seen that in my relationship with my sisters. We're able to have uncomfortable conversations, very real conversations. And that, far from like being stressful now, that's just a matter of fact for us. And that's why we grow. And that's why we evolve.
Yeah. And then you also you get to have standards too.
Yeah. The standards of what I want for my quality of life and what I see, whether it's in well, you've seen me in business.
Yeah.
I have no problem. Like, there's certain standards that I want for us,
right,
and how we are with the public, and then there's certain standards that I will uphold others to.
Right.
And so that goes with standards and the voice, and those kind of go to and that is what it is to love ourselves. And I don't think that my observation is we're not taught that. When we're kids, we're taught we're programmed. The most foundational years are 0 to 7, because you're just a sponge. So you're energetically taking everything on. And then from 7 to 14 is the big part where you really are just taking in what you're deciding, how you're going to move. And so in those ages, what are we told?
To listen.
Be quiet, listen.
Yeah. Do as you're told.
Do as you're told. Kids are to be seen, not heard. All these things. So do you understand? That's why we grow up and it's very rare. And then if a child is vocal, oh, she's sassy.
Right.
Or another thing is, you must respect me.
Yeah.
And like, did we earn? Like, are we teaching this? Is this symbiotic? Does this go both ways?
What is respect?
Yes. And so that's what I mean by that.
Number 7, uncomfortable conversations are a gift of love.
I guess I jumped ahead. Yes, uncomfortable conversations are a gift of love, because it is there that you can unravel. Often we bleed on people that didn't cut us. You've heard that. Yeah. Fix your wound so that you won't bleed on people that didn't cut you. And so that's, for me, is I'm willing to have uncomfortable conversations. And here's the thing. I have lots of blind spots. Everyone does.
Right.
So these uncomfortable conversations are a gift of love, because they show up for me. They're here to prosper me. Mm-hmm. They're here to grow me. They're here to help me. They're here to assist me.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me yesterday, I was talking to this person, and they told me they took on therapy again, and I was sharing with them, I think that's really good, and I just want you to like not be hard on yourself, like, what, I'm doing this again, therapy, And I said, I'm taking up coaching. I just started coaching last week, and I was like crying, and they made me see a lot of insights. And then I have coaching. I'm going to be doing coaching weekly until I get to a certain place, because I mastered like 6 areas of my life, but there's these 2 areas that are far from being the way the other ones are. And so I want coaching. And then she said, that doesn't make you feel bad? I go, no, because I don't have this conceived notion that I have to be everything. Right. And I have
to... You're put together.
Yes. Yeah. No, like for me, it's like we forever can have evolved from wherever we are.
Work in progress.
But not from like a constant, like it's never good enough either, right? But yeah, I'm evolving. That's the way I see it. Like we get to, how far will I get? Who knows?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's that, those conversations, I welcome them because I don't fear them. I'm not so stuck in my egocentrism or egocentricity that I need to appear a certain way. I'm just a human.
Yeah. Number 8, regretting nothing is key to radiating love for me and for life.
I learned a few years ago that when you regret, you're carrying like this ball and chain. And so when you let go of regrets, there's freedom and there's lightness. And so, yes, I would highly recommend to anyone that wants to love on themselves, don't do a massage. That's self-care. Love yourself is get rid of all your regrets. Because they are limiting you. You are not showing up as the full expression of who you are because that regret is weighing you down.
Yeah. That's interesting. Self-love versus self-care. Dang.
Yes.
I have one of that in here. Number 9, sitting with myself in silence, going within, and getting to know myself is the rarest loving gift I can give myself.
We are so wired to like look at social media, share everything we're doing, have everyone see what we're doing, and to just be able to sit in silence. COVID was one of the biggest blessings the first 4 to 6 weeks for me. Not like I'm not being callous to what it represented and all it did. I'm just saying on a very personal note, I was the first time like I was able to have deep inner time to sit with myself because I'm always on the go. I'm always answering. I answer to a lot of people. I always have. And so it was just amazing. And so I think we underestimate and we haven't been taught solace and stillness and mindfulness. And when we're able to like start incorporating that into our lives, we just show up in such a different frequency, a more loving, more high vibrational frequency. Now, that's also being said that you're not riddled with regrets and right, and in your head and
You're
overanalyzing,
these things.
right?
Yeah.
No, but when you can just sit in silence with yourself, it's one of the most loving things. Just I call it being in my beingness. When I could just be here with a cup of coffee and look at that little leaf move back and forth, and I just can take it in.
Yeah. That's hard too. Because even on your drive to anywhere, you want to listen to a podcast, you want to listen to music or something. And I've noticed myself not playing anything and just sitting there. Like that's what I'm trying to do with my drives, even like in the morning time too. Like take it in and just look at everything. Look at the stuff around you. And it's almost healing because you really get to sit with yourself.
I remember talking to the coaches and sharing that the reason I like being with you is because we do that. Like I remember when Samantha was house sitting and we're in the backyard and we were just there and we weren't even talking to each other. We were just looking and we'd say one word every so often, but we were just there taking in the garden and the little birds. And yes, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
And I would have people start to question if they have a hard time doing that to figure out why, because then you're not at peace and you're not able to just be. And that's very unloving. That means your system is constantly like on high mode.
Number 10, I am part of the total sum in all events. God does not require me to be a sacrificial lamb.
Yes. So especially being women and in my culture, Latina, we expense ourselves, we run ourselves dry, but as long as everyone's okay, we're very sacrificial. And that's not loving. Far from it. It's something that we teach to our young people. And a lot of young people are not going for it. Like that's why they're so anti-volunteer. Because they're like, so I could look like you with your head cut off, like a chicken with your head cut off.
Not doing it.
I'm not doing that, right? So a lot of the times it took me a while to break the cycle, and I'm still working on it today, where the decisions I make have to be beneficial or hold space and support for me. I can't be making decisions so that you can be okay at my expense. Like, I'm not called to be a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
And we have this very supposed, like, I don't know what you would call it, like pious kind of humanitarian, like trying to save the world. And the truth is that the more that I take care of me and you take care of you, the more that we actually take care of the world.
Yeah.
Because now we're in our standards are set. We're both in great positions. Now we could really do some damage.
Yeah.
As far as like damage in a good way, you know?
Yeah.
Moving things forward.
Right.
But if we're out here running with empty cups, parched, like in a dry desert, because I expense myself, that's not loving to me. And at the end of the day, if you're surrounded by good people, that's not going to feel good to them to see you sacrificing you for
You're
them.
right. It's almost like you could have it as an analogy with the airplanes. When you're in flight, you put on your mask first and then help others. Because if you can't breathe and someone needs help over there, both of you guys.
And we hold that to such a high standard when there's like a movie or something and like they went in the flames. And don't get me wrong, like those are something that we should do, right? But it's just that part where we really think that we want another person to love us that way, very sacrificial. Then we feel like they love us. And that's not true. And that would require its own podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Number 11, going deep versus going wide in my relationship is loving and fulfilling. Bandwidth can only go so far.
Realizing that we are amazing as human beings. We could light up a city for 4 hours, but that's about it. Then you're going to have to recoup yourself so you could come back another day and light the city up for another 4 hours, right? So yeah, we're very exponential. Our energy is massive and amazing. But with that said, it only has so much bandwidth.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn that I started to keep my circle just a little bit tighter because it kept growing and growing and growing and kept going wide and wide. And the wider it got, the less deeper it got. I didn't have time to do coffee with my girlfriend every Wednesday at 9 a.m. And that's not okay.
Yeah.
I'd rather have 10 good friends that I can have deep depth with them than have 100 friends that were just like in passing.
Yeah.
So that for me is one of the things that I have found loving. I see this when I work with clients. You overheard, I was talking with one of my CEOs this morning.
Oh, yeah.
And the demands that he was feeling, and he hadn't seen his wife, and he's off to this country and then to that country and all these things, right? And so, yeah, it's important for us to understand that in it all, we want to be able to maintain our relationships because they do fuel us.
Okay, the last insight of the 48 top insights and the 12th one for love yourself. Concerning myself with my character versus my reputation is the most loving and supportive thing I have done myself. Inspired by Coach John Wooden.
So I heard Coach John Wooden say one time that don't worry about your reputation. Your character will supersede it. So I don't have time to hear what everyone is saying or what they're thinking. I'm more concerned with what I've set out to do and then know that my character, what I set out to do is noble and good. So even if it might look bad to some people right now, I'm okay with it because in the long run, character supersedes the reputation that some people might try to give me. And so when I make people's opinion of me none of my business, it frees me up tremendously, that bandwidth I'm talking about, for me to have the energy for what I'm committed to do. And that's one of the most loving things that I have been able to do, not concern myself with reputation.
Yeah.
Because I just need to continuously and consistently work on my character.
Right. Yeah, because how would it concern you?
Yeah. Well, if it
They'll
concerns you, then you're giving energy to something negative.
Yeah.
And so it dies faster if you give it no energy.
Yeah. Well, that was the 12th insight for Love Yourself. If you want to know more, we do have the Love Yourself Journal. You can get it on our website at www.v-saga.com or on Amazon. And just wanted to say thank you, Raquel, for your top 48 insights for your 40th birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Catch us on the next episode. Thank you.